Before we begin, tell me where you're watching from. I like knowing how far a small shop full of old clocks can travel in one night.
My name is Margaret Hale. I am 64 years old. For 40 years I have kept time on the same corner of Sparrow Lane. The whole street decided I was finished the morning Vivian Cole opened next door.
She was famous. I was the old woman who smelled like oil and brass. But what Vivian Cole did not know, what no one on that street knew, was that I still had the watch. And the watch changed everything.
Hale Clockworks was my husband's before it was mine. Arthur started it with one workbench, a jar of mismatched screws, and more patience than money.
I married into the ticking. I learned to sleep through 100 clocks and wake the second one of them stopped.
He used to say, a clock is just a promise you can hear, a promise that the next second will come, and the one after that.
I thought that was a sweet thing to tell customers. It took me 30 years to understand he meant it about people, too. When Arthur's heart gave out, I didn't sell. I tied on his apron, and I kept the lights on.
The first month, I talked to him out loud while I worked. The second month, I stopped. The clocks kept talking, so the quiet never got too loud.
I never regretted staying. Not once. By 60, I knew every regular by the thing they carried. The retired captain and his brass ship's chronometer. The young couple with her grandmother's mantel clock that chimed a half beat late. A school teacher who brought in the same broken alarm clock twice a year, though we both knew she could buy 10 new ones for the price. I never said so. Some people aren't paying for the repair. They're paying for the proof that broken things can be kept. I knew the rhythm of my own small world. Steady, quiet, mine. I thought it would stay that way forever. I was wrong. The shop beside mine had stood empty for 2 years. Then the trucks came. Then the scaffolding. Then a wall of glass and a name cut in pale steel. Maison Vivienne. People whispered before the dust had settled.
Margaret, you won't believe who's moving in next door.
Tell me.
Vivian Cole. The Vivian Cole. The watch lady.
There's a line on the sidewalk and the doors aren't even open yet.
You have seen her work, even if you don't think you have. The thin steel watch on every magazine wrist. The auctions. The ad with the slow shot of a second hand sweeping across a still white face. She built an empire on one design, a clean little watch with a blue sparrow hidden under the dial. They called it the Sparrow. Collectors called it a miracle of restraint. I read the profile in the design magazine twice. The second time, my tea went cold in my hand. There was a line in it I couldn't put down. The designer, it said, has never revealed where the famous motif came from. She calls it, quote, a gift from a life I left behind. A gift? Well, that was one word for it. That night, I closed early. I sat in the dark of the workshop with a drawer open in my lap. Inside, under a felt cloth, was a pocket watch. Brass worn soft gold, a hairline scratch on the back, a blue enamel sparrow on the lid. Open it, and inside, in Arthur's fine hand, mind the small hours. It was the watch that made Vivian Cole famous. The whole Sparrow line is that lid, redrawn in steel. I knew it the moment I saw the magazine. I knew it from the first photograph. You don't forget a thing your husband held for 40 years. Not the curve of it, not the weight. Because 30 years ago, this watch left my hands and went out into the world in the pocket of a frightened girl. A runaway who slept one winter in our storeroom. A girl with a different last name and nothing else. She had forgotten us. I had not forgotten her. Let me take you back to that winter. You need to see it to understand the rest. It was the coldest November I can remember.
Arthur found her behind the shop at dawn, asleep against the warm brick of the back wall.
16, maybe? An army coat 3 sizes too big. Hands chapped to bleeding. Most people would have called someone. Arthur made cocoa.
There's a girl out back, Maggie. She's not stealing. She's just cold.
He set a mug on the step and went back inside so she wouldn't feel watched. It took her an hour to touch it.
When she finally came to the door, she stood in the frame like she might bolt.
I'll go. I'm not bothering anybody. I just needed the wall.
The wall's not going anywhere. Neither's the cocoa. Sit if you like.
Why would you do that? You don't know me.
Don't have to. You're cold. That's enough.
She sat on the very edge of the chair, coat still on, eyes on the door the whole time.
We never asked her real name. She gave us one, and we used it, and didn't push.
My mother taught me that. You feed the hungry. You don't audit them first. We made up the storeroom cot. We put a lock on the inside of that door, not the outside, so she'd know she was free to leave. She tested it the first 3 nights. I'd hear the bolt slide at 2 in the morning just to be sure it was hers to slide.
By the 4th night, she stopped checking.
I'm not going to take anything. I know. Everybody says that, and then they wait for it anyway. I can feel them waiting.
Then we'll be the ones who didn't wait. Pass me that small screwdriver. She handed it to me like it might be a test. It wasn't. It was just a screwdriver. But she needed a few days to believe a thing could be just what it was.
What happens when I mess something up? There's always a thing you do.
Then we fix it. That's the whole job, sweetheart. Things break, we fix them. Nobody gets thrown out for breaking. She watched Arthur work for a week before she asked a single question.
Then she asked all of them at once. How does it keep time if nothing's pushing it? What's that little wheel that swings back and forth?
That's the balance. That's the heart. Everything else just counts what the heart does.
And if the heart's becked?
Then it runs fast, or slow, or not at all, and somebody patient sits down and trues it, gently. You can't force a balance, you coax it.
She had hands for it, steady, where the rest of her was all flinch.
Give her a movement in pieces, and the flinch went quiet. The whole frightened girl narrowed down to 10 still fingers and a problem she could solve.
She'd work past midnight under the bench lamp, tongue between her teeth, while the shop ticked around her like a held breath.
I fixed it. Listen, it's mugging.
It is. Hear that? That's a promise you just put back together.
I watched her smile for the first time that day. Small, like it cost her something to let it out.
Arthur caught my eye over her bent head and didn't say a word. He didn't have to. We both knew. The shop had been waiting for someone like her, and we hadn't known it was waiting.
She almost left once before, in February. We had words. My fault. I pushed about where she came from. She had her bag packed by the door at dawn. Arthur didn't beg her to stay. He just put the kettle on.
Door's unlocked. Always was. But the kettle's nearly there, and it's a cold walk to nowhere on an empty stomach.
She unpacked the bag. We never spoke of it again.
Then spring came, and the restlessness came with it. I knew the look. She had somewhere to be that wasn't here. Somewhere bigger.
There's a workshop in the city that takes apprentices. I wrote them. They said come. Then you go. You go and you don't look back like you owe us anything.
Arthur didn't say much. He just took the pocket watch out of his vest, his own, the one his father gave him, and pressed it into her hand.
Every maker needs one watch that's only theirs, so you remember the small hours are where the real work happens.
I can't take this. It's yours.
You're not taking it. I'm giving it. There's a difference, and it matters. Now go true some bent hearts.
She left on a Tuesday. She didn't write. We told ourselves no news was good news, the way you do. 30 years later, her face was on the side of a building, and the watch in her ads was the one in Arthur's hand that morning. Maison Vivienne opened with white roses and a violinist on the sidewalk. Half the city stood behind a velvet rope to look at watches that cost more than my van. My repairs, which actually kept their clocks alive, ran $40 and a handshake. I won't pretend it didn't sting. For the first time in years, the captain came in apologetic, holding a pale steel bag.
I only wanted to see one up close, Margaret. You understand?
Of course I do. And I smiled because I meant it. A man's allowed to look at a pretty thing.
It's beautiful work, I'll give her that. Doesn't tell time any better than the one you fixed me in '89.
That one will outlive us both, Captain. But that night I counted the register twice, hoping the number would change. It didn't. She came into my shop on her second day, not to buy, to measure. She walked my floor with an assistant, talking about ceiling height and natural light, the way you talk about a room you've already decided to empty.
Charming, honestly. You don't see places like this survive anymore.
She said it the way people say a thing is already gone.
You must be the owner. You've had a wonderful run here.
A run, like I was a clock winding down. 40 years, and still keeping time.
How lovely, truly.
She was already turning away. She did not know me. But I knew her. I knew the way she held a movement up to the light, thumb and 2 fingers, the grip Arthur taught her at that very bench. She did it without thinking, right there in my shop, to a clock she was pretending to admire. Her hands remembered the room, even while her eyes called it a relic. A week later, a man in an expensive coat set a folder on my counter like a favor.
Mrs. Hale, I represent the Cole Group. We'd like to buy out the rest of your lease, generously.
I opened the folder. The number inside was real money, enough to retire, enough to stop. She wants my corner.
She wants the whole frontage. Think of it as a kindness, a graceful exit.
There was that word again. Graceful. Exit.
Most people in your position would be grateful for the offer.
Most people in my position is a phrase that's never once been true of me. I closed the folder and slid it back across the glass. Tell Miss Cole I'm flattered, and tell her the answer is no.
She doesn't usually hear no.
Then it will do her good. He left, and I stood very still for a long time, because I had just turned down enough money to change my life, and I knew exactly why. I should tell you about Theo. 22, all elbows and questions, a loop always swinging from his neck. He could have apprenticed anywhere. He chose the slow little shop with the sparrow in the window.
Why turn it down, Margaret? That's life-changing money.
I almost told him everything right there. About the watch, the runaway, the steel copy of Arthur's lid sitting in the window next door. But I wasn't ready. Not yet. Some things aren't for sale, Theo, even when the price is fair.
Okay, then we fight for it.
We don't fight, we fix things. Done right, that's the same thing.
You always say that like it ends the conversation.
That's because it usually does.
I looked her up, Vivian Cole. There's no record of her before she was 26. Nothing. Like she walked out of a fog, already famous.
Some people build the fog on purpose, Theo. It's easier to sell a miracle than a history. After the no, the small troubles started. A fire inspector arrived unannounced, on a complaint no one would name. He found nothing. He came back twice that month. My parts supplier of 20 years suddenly couldn't ship on Tuesdays, then couldn't ship at all. The bank called about a loan I'd paid off years ago, just to be certain I had.
Routine review, Mrs. Hale. Someone flagged the file. Nothing to worry about.
Nothing to worry about, said 3 different people in 1 week. That's how you learn to worry. None of it had a fingerprint on it. That was the craft of it. Vivian Cole never raised her voice. People like her never do. They just make the floor a little harder under you, day by day, and wait for you to fall. I'd seen pressure like that once before, long ago, from the people the girl had run from. I recognized the shape of it. Polite, patient, certain you'll tire first. What she didn't know was that I'd been standing on that floor for 40 years, and I had no intention of falling. There is a design writer in our city named Camille Roy. One column from her can make a shop or quietly bury it. Vivian invited her in for a private viewing. The photographs were everywhere by morning. A week later, the piece ran. It was mostly about Vivian, but near the end, Camille turned her pen on me. Beside the future of horology sits a sweet little relic, Hale Clockworks, honest, well-meaning, and 40 years out of date. One hopes the corner finds a dignified second life, preferably as something else. Then went very quiet.
She's never even set foot in here.
I know.
Doesn't that make you angry?
No, it makes me curious. A woman who's already won doesn't need to do all this. You don't hire the city's sharpest pen to bury a shop that's already dying. You hire her to bury a thing you're afraid is still alive. The column traveled the way unkind things do, fast and downhill. By the weekend, strangers online had opinions about a shop they'd never visited.
Someone wrote that we're what progress is supposed to replace.
Me next.
You don't want the next one.
I've been called worse by better. He didn't. He closed the laptop instead, which told me enough. That night, a regular of 15 years walked past my door, glanced in, and kept walking. That one I felt in my knees. It's a strange grief, watching people decide about you with their feet. I didn't sleep that week. I'd come down at 3 in the morning and stand among the ticking, which is the only company that never lies to you. I thought about selling. I'm not too proud to admit it. The folder was still in the drawer. The number hadn't changed. I thought, let her have the corner. Let me be done. I'm tired in a way that sleep doesn't touch. Then I picked up Arthur's watch and wound it and listened. And I asked him what to do, the way widows do, into a room that doesn't answer. The room didn't answer, but the watch kept time. And somewhere around the 4th night, that started to feel like a reply. Here's the thing about being pushed. It tells you exactly how frightened the other person is. Vivian Cole had boutiques in 5 cities, an auction record, a waiting list 2 years long. And still, she wanted my little corner erased. Still, she sent folders and inspectors and critics. Why would a giant work so hard to step on one ant? Unless, somewhere under the platinum and the steel, the giant remembered. Unless some part of her drove past my window each morning and felt something she couldn't name and couldn't stand. I began to wonder if she knew, not in her mind, in her hands, the way your hands remember a movement long after you've forgotten the man who taught it. I decided to find out, not with a lawyer, not with a fight, with a watch. That Sunday, I took the pocket watch to the bench. I cleaned it the way Arthur taught me, every wheel, every jewel. The blue sparrow polished until it caught the light. I wound it, and it ran. After all these years, it still ran, steady as the day he gave it away. The tick filled the workshop, and I closed my eyes and I was a younger woman again, watching a scared girl learn that broken things can be saved.
That's not one of ours. I've never seen that one.
No, it's older than anything in this case.
It looks exactly like Margaret. It looks exactly like the sparrow, the lid, the bird.
It looks like the sparrow because the sparrow looks like it. Now hand me the felt. I wrapped it in a square of gray felt and tied it with waxed thread, Then I wrote 3 words on a small card and slid it under the knot.
Margaret, who is she to you?
I only smiled. Walk it next door for me. Put it in Miss Cole's hands yourself. Not the assistant, her. I didn't see her face when she opened it. Theo told me later that the great Vivian Cole took the little parcel, half annoyed, expecting a complaint or a peace offering. That she unwrapped it at her glass counter in the middle of a busy afternoon. That she turned the watch over, the way a maker does, ready to judge a rival's work. And that she stopped.
Her thumb found the card under the thread. She read it twice. Then she just held the watch against her chest, Margaret, like it might get away.
3 words in plain ink. You remember this.
She went white. She set it down like it was hot. Then she walked into the back and didn't come out.
That evening, for the first time since she arrived, the white lights in the Maison Vivienne window went dark an hour early. And at 9 o'clock, there was a knock at my back door. The same wall, the same hour she used to slide that bolt. She stood in the alley in the rain with no umbrella, no assistant, no ivory coat. Just a woman holding a small brass watch like it might break.
It's you. The storeroom, the cot, the cocoa on the step. I told myself I built it alone. For 30 years, I told everyone that story. The orphan who made herself. I think I almost believed it.
Come in out of the rain. And the famous Vivian Cole, who did not usually hear no, wiped her shoes on my mat and came inside. She stopped at the bench, ran 1 finger along the edge where the wood is worn smooth.
This is where I learned to hold a movement. Thumb and 2 fingers. I still do it. I do it on television, and I never knew why. Is Arthur?
8 years now.
I should have come back. I told myself there'd be time. I let it become a thing I'd do later, and later closed.
Sit down, Vivian. Later's still open tonight.
I made tea. We sat where Arthur used to do the books. I set the watch between us and opened the lid so she could read it.
He gave me this the morning I left. He said every maker needs 1 watch that's only theirs.
He meant it. He meant all of it.
I drew that lid from memory in a freezing studio. The sparrow, the line of the case. I told myself it was mine because I had redrawn it. I built 5 boutiques on it and put my own name under the dial.
I know.
Every time someone asked where it came from, I said a gift from a life I left behind. I never said it was a gift. I made it sound like loss. It was easier to be tragic than grateful. You could end me. 1 interview, 1 photograph of this watch beside the sparrow. The whole self-made story falls apart, and you're holding the proof.
She was right. I could have. And she sat there in my workshop waiting for me to do it. Here is what no one tells you about the moment you finally hold the power. You find out who you are by what you do with it. I could have ruined her. The street that called me a relic would have called me brave. But Arthur didn't fix clocks so I could use one as a hammer. And I'll tell you something I'm not proud of. After he died, I spent a few years angry at the whole world for taking him. I was sharp with people who didn't deserve it. I know what it is to hide a soft thing under a hard one. I'm not going to end you, Vivian.
Then what do you want?
The truth, not for the cameras, for you. You've been trying to bury this corner because it's the one place that knows who you were before the name. You can't build anything tall enough to outrun that. I tried. The tower just gives you a longer way to fall.
How do I make it right?
I closed the lid and slid the watch back toward her. You already know. You're a brilliant woman. Be a good one. The rest is just craft, and you've always had the hands. 2 weeks later, Maison Vivienne unveiled a new line. At the center of the case, beside the famous sparrow, sat a small brass piece under a card I will never forget. The Hale movement, after Arthur and Margaret Hale, Sparrow Lane, where I learned everything. Vivian called Camille Roy herself and told her the whole story. All of it. The storeroom, the cocoa, the watch.
I came to write about the future of watchmaking. I owe a correction, an apology, and 1 block of my own 2 feet.
Her next column wasn't a review. It was a confession and an invitation to walk 1 door east. The line that used to wrap around her glass began to wrap around mine. The fire inspector never came back. The Tuesday parts arrived again, with a note from the supplier that just said, "Sorry, Margaret." The regular of 15 years returned, and didn't mention the day he walked past, and I didn't either. Some repairs you do in silence. Vivian and I are not exactly friends. It's more complicated and more honest than that. But every Friday now, a woman in an ivory coat slips in my back door, ties on an apron, and works a bench beside Theo.
It's the only hour of my week that feels like mine.
I believe her. Her hands are happiest here. They always were. People think power is the thing you take. Most of my life, I believed that too. I thought whoever held the design, the money, the name, that was the one who'd won. But I held all the proof in the world in a felt-lined drawer, and the strongest thing I ever did was choose not to swing it. The street said I was finished the day Vivian Cole moved in. They were looking at my apron. They never saw the watch. Where I came from did not make me small. It made me the only one on that lane who still remembered what mattered. A clock is a promise you can hear. So is a kindness. It just takes longer to chime. Maybe you know what it feels like to be counted out, to be called dated or slow or finished by people who never once looked closely. If you do, I want you to know something. Your corner matters, your story matters, and it isn't over yet. This is a place for stories like yours. If you've lived a quiet reversal, a moment when the truth finally caught up with the people who overlooked you, we'd be honored to hear it. Write to us at vellumoflife@gmail.com. Tell it however it comes out. Fragments are fine. Every name is changed. Your privacy is absolute. And before you go, leave a comment and tell me the city and country you're watching from. I love knowing how far this little shop full of clocks has traveled tonight. Until the next chapter.